Hello and welcome to the dungeon. My name's Dan, and in today's video we've been playing a lot of WWE2K20. And this may come as a surprise for some people since I don't really talk about wrestling that much on my channel, but alongside video games, Warhammer and some other things, I do also like my professional wrestling as well. Now when it comes to the WWE 2K games, I generally don't buy every year, maybe I give it 1 or 2 years between them just to try and see how things develop over the lifetime. So the last game I played prior to this one was WWE 2K18, so just 2 years ago, and compared to that, this game is a real piece of shit. Let's start off with the obvious elephant in the room, performance. I don't know what happened. I think there were 2 companies working on this, but one pulled out or one stopped working on it. Anyway, this is very much a rush job with all kinds of hilarious glitches happening. We're talking about wrestlers trying to climb up invisible ladders. We've got teleportation. We've got wrestlers merging into each other. We've got all kinds of weird facial problems. Fortunately, for my version, the PlayStation 4, I didn't get any severe horrific examples of this, more kind of funny. That might be due to having a patch done before I started playing my copy, or maybe the PS4 version was just better in that capacity. Then we get to the hair. I swear a different company did the hair designs for this because they seem to have a weird life of their own, like they're making some kind of first-person alien shooter. Maybe you could blame it on the indoor breezes going through these arenas, or the fact that they're reacting to punches that haven't even landed yet. And speaking of hair, what is up with some of these colours? Seamus, the Irish guy with the pale skin and the vibrant orange hair, you know, that's his calling card, has brown hair now. Did he just rush that whole thing? I mean, it's quite obvious, he's a massive ginger. Other characters who were once blonde have now gone darker as well, and some of the faces they've done are just atrocious. Maybe you can chalk it up to too many wrestling bumps, but I swear 2K18 looked a lot better than this. You can tell they definitely cut some corners when it came to the animation side of things. Take lip syncing. Yes, that was something definitely cut. Check this out.
I still can't believe it's really all over for you and Red.
I know. It is starting to sink in, though.
Just this morning, I was thinking about that time we faced each other in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Man, that was brutal.
It's nice to see that AJ Styles has been working on his ventriloquism. So yes, on the whole, a bit of a botch job. And I think they'll try and make it better. I'm sure there's more patches in the works. But to be honest with you, with such an annual franchise, why bother? Just try again and do it better for 2021. If you take all the developers who are spending time and money trying to get this one right, you could use them for next time so you don't have quite a train wreck of a product. And what we've discussed hasn't even been the game-breaking stuff. I've encountered at least a few times now just black screens and not being able to progress. At one time I had a match and then I went straight to the loading screen. It was a difficult match as well, and the loading screen stopped about 3/4 of the way, and yep, I had to come out of the entire game, go back in again, and had to redo the entire match again. Another bug had it when I was Xing out of a match, and the crowd noise continued into the next menus and into me looking at the roster. I mean, you can tell a game is broken when the guy selling it to me is like, okay, if you do this, you'll break the game. If you do this, you'll crash the game. Best don't go on other people's creation. Alright, that's performance. I normally save that for later in review, but I had a lot to get off my chest. How about the rest of the game? How about the core wrestling mechanics? They're fine. But to be honest with you, they've been fine now for a few years. I think 2K18 tried to change up how the wrestling works, and that was quite good. I like that, and that's carried on here and been finessed. So if you're unfamiliar with wrestling or think that's some kind of kids thing and it's all fake, let me tell you this, brother. Wrestling is best when you don't look at it like a sport. It's more of a theatrical acrobat combat situation with chance. Effectively, it's having a bad guy and a good guy. And if things go well, you'll want the good guy to win and beat the bad guy. And this is just the arena as to how it goes. Is it silly looking at big, strong, burly men in neon underwear? I guess, but you could say that about a lot of hobbies. For me, it's all about the characters and all the flashy somersaults they can do, and the technical side of it, like countering your opponent. And this game does a good job of trying to match that when it works. For example, when your character has an opportunity and you see a punch coming your way or some kind of move, if you press triangle or whatever the button reference is, you can very quickly attempt to counter it. But if you're too slow, which is most of the time when I first started playing, then you won't counter. So the trick isn't really to wait for the button prompt, but to look at the animations and know the time just before you press it. And that makes a very seamless toing and throwing sequence. A lot of drama really as you try and counter your opponent. I've just been playing against the AI, which has been various hit and miss, so if you put human players together, you can get a lot of edge of your seat tension involved. And just like a game such as Mortal Kombat, you do have a wide variety of different things you can do depending on where you are in the ring, where your opponent is. Are you standing? Are you on your back? Are you running? All kinds of different things where if you memorize the different move settings with your controller or keyboard or whatever, you can pull off a very varied show. Punches, kicks, clotheslines, DDTs, jump kicks, lariats, dozens of types of slams. You have access to all of these, and it really is very satisfying getting your head around the system and being able to pull off a chain of different moves. Not to mention the fact that you can get weapons from under the ring as well. So all kinds of things from chairs, ladders, bamboo sticks, baseball bats. I mean, these are all staples in professional wrestling, so you're never going to get anything too nasty, like say an axe or a mop covered in barbed wire. With the best really weapon you can expect is a hammer, and even then you're not really using it the way it's supposed to. It's a hammer! Give it a good swing, don't do this little lungy type thing in the midriff. Oh, and from what I've seen, there's no blood at all. Big disappointment. I remember playing it on my PSP, I think it was 2K10 maybe, or 9, one of those ones. And yeah, you could beat someone up so much they would bleed, and that might end the match, or if it was a no DQ type match, then it would continue. So yes, where's my blood? Bearing in mind the PEGI rating is 16, I'm a bit surprised that is a feature that hasn't been incorporated into this one. In fact, another issue I found was no matter how much damage you did to an opponent, the animations would show the damage, as in they were a lot slower now, they were rubbing at their shoulders, whatever, what was injured, but the actual model itself wouldn't show a single bit of thing. No bruises, no welts, no black eyes, as I said, no blood, nothing at all like that. So when I was playing a 45-minute match against Brock Lesnar, and I did everything under the sun to try and beat this albino pterodactyl, in the end I lost that match, but I did whatever you name it, I did it to him. And in the it, he looked absolutely fine. So what are the modes of play you get in this? Well, again, if you're familiar with how WWE do things, you got a bunch of different match stipulations, so different rules. You can have a standard just 1v1 match, you can do 2v2 tag teams, you can do no disqualification, so things like weapons and interference are legal, you can do big Hell in a Cell matches, which are quite fun, boiler brawls, a good range of things like that. But to be honest, they've had that for years, probably since the 90s, so nothing particularly new on that front. In terms of storyline, there's a few things you can try to do to actually get some kind of narrative going on. You can play the tower missions, which has Roman Reigns and some of the Women's Revolution and that kind of things. So basically you play as one or two wrestlers, you have some actual live action discussions about the matches and how they went, and then you relive the match. It's a nice way to try to put yourself in the shoes of a wrestler's career, but my issue with this is when I was playing it, the commentary and the historical part of the match didn't match up. So to begin, I was playing a tag match with Roman and Seth against Kane and Daniel Bryan, and they kept on referring to things that happened long after this match on commentary, so it was very kind of, but this is before that. Very confusing, and commentary is a big part of professional wrestling. You need to have someone telling the audience, the viewers at home, exactly what's going on and who really we should root for, who's the bad guy, and when there's some kind of mismatch. Oh, what really annoyed me is when I won the match with Seth, the commentator said it was Roman who actually got the pin. I'm like, no, it was Seth who got the win. Get it right. So yes, more attention could have been done on that front. Other storyline type things include being able to, I guess, set up your own episode of Raw or SmackDown and just play various different matches going on with it. I found this rather threadbare, and considering a large part of wrestling is the promos and who's feuding with who and who's going to turn on who, that didn't feel too much like an episode and just a string of random matches together. But the most important narrative thing is the My Wrestler mode, where you get to control a wrestler and rise up through the ranks. They've done this a few times now. In this one, you actually get both a male and a female, and they start as best friends. You get to control how they look, you get to give them their move set, you can do various things like that, but their history is set in stone, and there's quite a lot going on here between the guy's adoptive family and whose parents are, Valletta, and then you have her and her ambitions and why they're called Red and Trey. And that was interesting, but the talky sections between them was far too long, and for the most part unskippable in some places, especially in matches where Red, the lady's having a match against one of the Iconics, I can't remember which one, and Trey, the guy, is trying to distract the Iconic by making some jokes about Australia. And yeah, they're fine the first time, but if I have to keep replaying the match, which I did, I couldn't quit those sequences. And at least for the first part of this mode, you can definitely tell the attention was put on Red, the female character, with Trey being kind of butt of jokes. He's the one who fell on a dinner tray, he's the one who got kicked in the balls by a mascot. Definitely embracing the jokey side of the business. And there are some good comedic writing in here. I like the fact that they continued the whole everyone shits on Byron Saxton thing on commentary. What's going on with Trey's foster parents and how his dad really is concerned about the points on his son's credit card. Lots of fun little asides like that. AI can be balked as well. For example, when I was doing a fatal 4-way and the third or fourth wrestler was coming to the ring, I could see the other two in the corner just literally walking into each other, as if someone had fallen asleep on the controller and they were just walking along for eternity. And why is it when I'm doing tag team wrestling, I can literally get into my opponent's corner even though the other guy is behind me and still do my jump? The other guy should literally grab me by the ankles and throw me down. It's the whole point of having a tag team. You have two wrestlers working as one, not two random guys barely communicating. Actually, that does sound like WWE after all. Anyway, tag teams need more work. Now, when it comes to music, WWE does like to license various well-known artists for their games, so a lot of this stuff I probably could play for you, but I'll definitely get a copyright strike. Not that it particularly matters to me, since I'm not a very big YouTuber, but good habits and all. Since I'm not really up with modern music, I couldn't really tell you much about the bands or singers playing. There's a varied mix here of things like hip-hop, R&B, a few heavier, rockier tunes, and some of them were really weird. Like, I'm a huge Muse fan, but why was their song from their latest album on here? Muse doesn't really strike me as being a very combat-oriented group. You know what would have worked better, I think, for the music is having lots of their older songs from various pay-per-views they've had in the past. Throw them in there, that would save on some licensing fees. Now, another issue with sound, which makes me think I'm just playing with lifeless marionettes, is that once your wrestler begins the match, unless it's some kind of scripted storyline type thing, they never speak. So another big part of the hobby of wrestling is all the smack talk they give people. You literally have a show called SmackDown, and one of the biggest guys on it, The Rock, was known for his smack talk. Yes, you can taunt your opponents if you want to by pressing an arrow key, but all you're doing is a gesture. There's no verbal element to a match. It's all just the wrestling, which is fine, but I like some good smack talk. Put that in there. The roster is quite good and extensive. Basically, if you follow the shows, then you'll know who's on there, although I actually didn't know a few people, so they're definitely bringing everyone. But I do like the fact that a lot of NXT people were on here too. NXT is like the third show they have in their production schedule, and that's where a lot of the younger talent go to really hone their craft. I think it's a very good, very polished product, and I'm glad that more people are on there. You've also got various Hall of Famers you can unlock and older wrestlers who aren't quite as current. And the great thing is, you don't actually have to pay with them with real money, although that is a separate issue. You can just earn in-game money and then spend that to unlock, say, Sting or various shades of The Undertaker. Oh yes, another feature they've done from time to time when doing like old retrospective matches or flashbacks or dream matches is this whole VCR type 90s thing on the screen. That was a nice little touch where you actually in a match from the 90s and a whole different way of lighting the arena and commentary, that kind of thing. So I appreciate that little touch they've done. This game does have some DLC. It seems to be cosmetic for now in terms of actual wrestlers, but I was a little peeved that they had the Fiend Bray Wyatt hidden under a paywall, since I quite like his fiendish alter ego, and the whole Halloween stuff looked very fun and funky. Oh well, maybe next time. When it comes to actually creating your own wrestler, then you do have a lot of customization options, and you can really spend a lot of time trying to craft the ugliest, sickest wrestler you can imagine. Although for some reason, the customization options in the My WWE mode with the two wrestlers rising from the ranks was nowhere near as extensive as the regular base game version, so not sure what was going on there. There's a lot of tweaking you can do with regards to how your wrestler acts, how they look, the arenas you can also customize, put different stickers on the aprons. You can even change things like the commentary booths, the desks, all kinds of little things that if you like that kind of thing, you'll have a huge amount of fun here. To be honest with you, I would have happily taken less of that and more just making sure the game doesn't crash. Another thing they need to do is tweak the crowd settings, because as I'm sure you've seen before, crowds at a wrestling show, they bring their own signs, and a lot of these seem very tame and just wrestler's name and this is awesome and will you marry me? That was a sign that some guy was holding up, bearing in mind the match was between Christian and Brock Lesnar. Seemed very odd. I have seen duplicate signs as well, often very close together, so yes, work on that as well. I'm sure you can do some kind of algorithm where the same sign doesn't come up twice. Another fun feature they have when it comes to creating your own wrestler is an RPG type system, and they use this I guess for all the wrestlers, and this gives them a power rating where you can go on a grid, very much like Final Fantasy XII with its whole grid system where you unlock different move sets and different passive abilities, like you have more stamina, you can now do a dirty pin, you can roll off the ring, jump from the top rope, all that kind of stuff, so you can really tweak how your wrestler acts as well as how they look. WWE2K20 does support up to 4 players playing locally, which is always a good thing. We need more of those games in general, but the more players you have, the more likelihood of things crashing, so watch out for that. You can quickly click between who your character is targeting, but with so many people and moves happening so quick, it can get very confusing. So many times where I hit the ref. Half the time that was by accident. And really guys, that would be it. Your mileage with this game depends on how much you really like wrestling, and WWE wrestling at that. If that's not your thing, then why are you watching this video? But thank you anyway for making it this far. Due to all the crashes and repetitiveness and not being able to skip certain scenes, and some matches just lasting far too long when the guy would not be pinned at all. For me, WWE2K20 gets the score of 2.5 effeminate Brock Lesnar's out of 5. There's a lot of fun to be had here, but you can have that with other older versions of the game, which probably look and play a hell of a lot better. If you're interested, maybe get this one on discount, and hopefully by then it'll be at the best it could possibly be. It needs less bugs, less talking in the story mode, more Aleister Black tower missions would be great, and until it gets that, I doubt I'll be playing much more of this. I don't think I want to play WWE2K21 in a year's time, so I might just play the AEW game instead. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching. If you think I've been a little too harsh and hostile in this one, just you wait until next time, when I'm giving you my honest opinion on Death Stranding. Anyways, that's all for now. I shall see you next time. Bye!